Here we go, and it is time for another sprint zone. This one is for 10:29, and it is a somewhat chilly day. Looking off to the east, you can see that there's sunshine out there. And looking to the west, well, for those people who don't recognize it, that's rain. And it's kind of chilly. There's some people that weren't dressed super warm, but when we took off, it wasn't as cloudy as it is. And so it is definitely getting a little chillier. And it is time to begin the party. So it's a reasonably small group today, hearty individuals, everyone looking strong, no one looking to do anything crazy just yet. Although the pace coming up County Road 5, you know, it could have been a tad bit slower, but because it was chilly, I was okay with it. Making the corner here, and then we see the strong men up front. Looks like there's Jonathan Day, and he's been riding exceptionally strong these last couple of weeks. Got Mr. Kennedy from the Breakaway Squad, and then we got Scott Polyan. Of course, I'd like to thank him for his telemetry and video. Also, special guest, we have Steve Hyland with us from the OCR group, representing strong. And then looking rearward, we got Byron Besserell and Rob in the back, and of course another breakaway teammate of Ron's, Jim Auman. And I'm wondering, and so far, throughout all the days of the TFR, there's never been any teamwork. Whether Rio shows up, whether it's FCCT, whether it's old school, you name them, no teamwork. Someday, I have a dream that people would get organized. One day, I would like to see some reasonable tactics tried, but I digress. Anyway, there is a strong wind coming off of our left shoulder, and at this point, everyone to the left is basically being guttered. And Mr. Hyland is quick to start the party, and you can see him in the distance, maybe 25, 30 yards ahead of us, and he is keeping a good pace, staying off to the right of the left of the white line, hoping that someone would come up and to give them shelter to work with. But at this point, we're all guttered here. And you can see that, like, Scott in front of me in the black, you can see his camera, he is able to get a little bit of shelter from Ron. But pretty much everyone is guttered. And I'm wondering, like, what is up with this? There should be some more organization, but people are just a ramming and a thumping, and they're just going, thinking about themselves here. We're not thinking about organization and getting what they need as far as a group. If everyone's just bleeding off energy, that is not going to help. And you can see we've only crested the hill, and already my heart rate is at 165 at threshold. 30-second power, 192, and you can see the power that Scott has put out up to this point. Starting the coast, he was close to almost 270 watts for 30 seconds. Hoping for some shelter here, but there's still no real organization yet, and I still am guttered. Little accelerations here. Jonathan coming back after a little bit of stint up front, and that little acceleration was hard. And you can see here I am putting in like a little over 300 watts for a second to kind of blast myself back up into position. Now, finally, looking at Scott's camera, little bit of organization here, slight echelon from his point of view, and he's good. He's definitely good at this point, and I'm not. I'm trying to get a little something behind Ron, but Ron is at the tail end of the kite here, the last person to get any kind of shelter. As we finally, looks like we bring Steve back into the fold, and I'm starting to drift back here, wondering where people are going to go. I don't want to go into the little bit of shelter there because I know I'm going to have to come out again. And then people rotating at the front. You see Jonathan looking strong, and you see Jonathan, and it looks like Mike Weeder behind him. They've got a little bit of shelter from me. We got John B. or John Bradley coming off the front, looking strong there. But with the way things are, he's not long for this earth because there's no shelter. People are not working together. It is just guttering. It is mano a mano. It is swinging things around. Maybe if you were up near the front, there's a little bit of shelter. But at this point, all strung out. My heart rate's at 170 now. And I had a long ride over the weekend, and I don't And I knew at this point I would not be able to hang on, but I would try. There's no shelter here. 30-second power, like above 14 or whatever, a little bit above my AT right now. And certainly I don't have any extra headroom from the heart rate wise to be able to do anything more. And 170, that's a lot for me. Looking at Scott's camera, even he is somewhat guttered here. His 30-second power, 230. And instantaneous, look at his power there. 400 watts as Jimmy comes off the front. And this is the point where I just give up the ghost. We go there about, I'm like gone here. And then everyone behind goes through. And I'm good with that. So we'll switch to Scott's camera. And here we go. Now, finally at the front, there's a little bit of organization. Steve knows what's going on. And I always like to have Steve in the fold because he's a seasoned rider and he knows how to get things organized. And, I'll talk about some of the little bit of riding that was going on before we came to the melee here. We're going up County Road 5. People start to rotate. And a couple of people said to me, what are we doing? What are we doing? I'm like, we should go back to freaking kindergarten and learn how to follow a pattern. When you see a pattern forming that's going to be advantageous, you want to continue it, not just doing all cowboy stuff. And I don't have time to make a video on that one. I've railed against that before, but enough of that, and we'll get back to the action here. Steve looking strong up there, starting to coast a little bit because this is a little section. This is a little kicker where selection is made. Looks like he's looking for people to come through. He was coasting for a little bit. It's looking at the power. And we can see, looking at Scott's power, 70 watts, for 30-second. We could see that nobody was looking to come through. And now Scott moves to the center. And this is why he is not guttering people. This is good organization. He is providing shelter because to ride people off your wheel after some cooperation is a good thing. And I like this, even though you can't see who's behind him. Look at the little push here. And there you see 400, 500 watts. And there goes Wolfgang to the front. And I don't know if this is a little attack or what, but it looks like still a little bit of cooperation here as Scott is able to kind of suck in here. Not as much to the outside as we would like because at least Scott has some shelter here. I don't know what's happening back, but now Ron moves over and gives more shelter. Wolfgang could have been a little more cognizant here, and for a seasoned rider, I would have actually expected better. There are no cars back. Let's take the road. Let's do the right thing. And you're looking at my camera. You can see what's coming behind me. I'm way back, but there's no cars, so there's no reason not to take the road. So at this point, finally, maybe there's some cajoling going on, but now there was cooperation, and Wolfgang looked good at this point. Scott comes to the front and continues the good echelon. And I'm wishing that I would have been there to see this point. But now you can see I'm just kind of taking it easy back there, and life is pretty good. Ron comes to the front, and this is good cooperation here. And it looks like the heads of state are all here. Mr. Kennedy from the breakaway squad. We got Mr. Highland there, looking strong. We got Wolfgang looking strong. And I don't know if Jonathan's here. I can't see if he's back there, but definitely strong enough to be here with this group, assuming there is not, foul play as far as, the guttering going on. And maybe that's a good way to create a selection early on. And if I had, just a little bit to push on a little bit more, but today was not my day. Very smooth here, and you can see, it's a reasonable headwind, and Scott is getting a chance to recover. 30-second power below 150 now, like 115, so this is good. And this is a little bit of a grade here. Another inflection selection point where people are going to have to work, and Steve is out front, not looking for much help, and even Scott's instantaneous power around 300. This was good, and I don't think there was a further selection made because these are strong men at this point. But I'd like the cooperation that is going on here. I like this bit of organization. I wish we would have had a little bit of this going up County Road 5, but you can see how seasoned riders eventually get things going. Maybe there was, like I said before, some cajoling going on, saying move right, move left, do whatever. And this is a good thing. Wolfgang looking strong, and there's the flick of the elbow as he passes off, and Scott is to the front there, looking strong. 30-second power, not crazy, only 150. Instantaneous power, like 235, and his heart rate 156. I think he's playing a tactical game here, not going to go too hard, 250, 260 is enough for him as Mr. Kennedy comes to the fore. Everyone looking strong, and it looks like it is a group of four heads of state here, prepared to go mano a mano. And it's nice, you can see the evolution, how much stronger Mr. Kennedy has gotten from his first return back to the fold. OG coming back to represent, and it's a good thing. This is a good shot of a perfect echelon here. Everyone working in tandem. Shelter, everyone is being sheltered. No one is trying to get advantage by doing any kind of guttering, because that's not what we're about here. And, people need to get this practice. I will see on some of these other rides, and I'm not going to name the 3-letter rides that I've been on, where the pace lining is just horrible. No one knows what an echelon is. Well, some people do, but all it takes is one person to screw things up. And here's the attack. And at this point, the gloves are off, and there is no shelter to be had here. And I had a little chat with Wolfgang about this. He's like, yeah, bringing strong men to the front, at the pointy end of the stick. There's no room to be friendly at this point, and it's time to push it. And Scott is going for it at this point. 30-second power, 500 watts, most impressive. And now he's coming down to zero. It looks like he's cresting the hill. Perhaps he's looked back to see nobody there. This, in my opinion, is the top. And let's see if anyone's going to come over the top to see what is going on. And it looks like Scott takes that one. Well done. Followed by Mr. Kennedy. Not certain where Mr. Highland is. I'm not certain where Wolfgang is, but that was a good contest. I like that. Like a revolver, everyone taking their turn until the very end, and the gloves are off. And that's good. That's okay. At some point, everybody's frenemies until it's time not to be. And a good time was had by all. Not certain where Byron was in that one, but there was a lot of wattage being put out. Maybe we'll have to encourage Scott to purchase a rear camera so we can get that, or somebody else can get a rear camera, and we'll get some footage there. Yeah, there's more editing for me, but better viewing for you. And a good time was had by all. Well done, everyone. Well done. And you can see the rain in the distance. And for anybody who was on the ride, yes, there was rain. And lots of it. Okay, maybe not lots of it, but the last 4 miles, and it was cold. Anyway, until next time, peace out. And there they are, the heads of state.